a cup of oolong tea. In today's video, I would love to share with you a kitchen staple. This is a spice blend that I particularly love to have in the colder months, and I'm also going to share a recipe that absolutely works with it. My name is Ijeoma. I'm a beauty lover, a skincare influencer, a pro makeup artist, and a woman of a certain age. And I feel like all those things give me an authority to do what I'm doing on my channel. Before we jump into today's video, I've got some thoughts and some questions. Is this what Americans call pumpkin pie spice? I'm not quite sure. What I need to do is actually try some. That is something I still haven't done. I do live in Britain, but American culture is powerful, and everywhere I go now, I see pumpkin pie spice, something, be it candles, be it coffee, be it cake. So I think I need to try it. But doing my research, I think that my mixed spice blend is pumpkin pie spice. I'm not sure. I might just try something for Vlogmas. Yes, I'm just dropping that in. I am going to be doing Vlogmas. But yeah, let's jump into this video. Let me show you this blend. It is such a gorgeous spice blend to have during the cooler months. It's just warm, earthy, comforting. It smells beautiful. It works for so many situations, from soups to cakes to hot chocolate. Such an important spice blend for me to have in my kitchen. This is my own recipe that I have been tweaking and twerking for the last maybe 2 years, and I'm quite proud of it. In the description box, of course, I will leave all the details for the recipe. So let's jump into this video. Welcome to my kitchen. It's time to make this mixed spice blend. Took out my recipe book and prepped everything out on the counter. Having everything out on the counter just makes life a little bit more easier instead of that back and forth in the kitchen. You want to make sure you have a pan that is wide enough so that all your spices are evenly laid out on the base of the pan so that they get toasted evenly. So here I am going in with the cinnamon sticks, the coriander seeds, and the cloves. They are the only spices in this recipe that are in their whole form, and they are the only ones that will get toasted. You want to put your spices at about a medium to low heat for around 8 to 10 minutes. I couldn't decide, so I went with 9 minutes. And during your 9 minutes, make sure you're coming back and really giving your pan a good toss and turn, just to make sure all your spices get evenly toasted. After your time is up, take them off the pan, cover them, and leave them to cool. A decent cooling off period would be about 20 minutes. You cool the spices so that the oils come back into the spices. If you do this when they're very hot, you will lose a little bit of flavor, so be mindful, let them cool. You could use a pestle and mortar to do this part, but I have a Ninja, we thank God. If you have a blender or a coffee grinder, it is perfect to do this job as well. But if you have a pestle and mortar, girl, just see it as your workout of the day. As you can see, this is the perfect texture for me. I don't need my spices to be completely ground to a fine powder. Just a little bit of more texture, like that rustic vibe. So here I am adding the powdered spices, and that is the ginger and the nutmeg. Those are the only powdered spices that go into this recipe. After adding the powdered spices, I like to give them one more whirl in the blender just to make sure everything is mixed up very well. I then spoon it into a jar. Moments like this make me very happy. The kitchen witch inside me is just chuckling in joy. My kitchen smells beautiful. I've just made a staple. Life is good. Can I just say this would also make a really gorgeous gift for a food lover in your life? Just saying. Before we jump into the loaf cake recipe, a few things to mention. This part of the video is really important before you start baking, so don't zoom past, just listen to me. So you're more than welcome to use any pumpkin squash that you have that is in hand, but be mindful that that will change the taste of your cake. So think about it. Pumpkin puree is not a popular ingredient in the British market, but if you're American and you're watching this, you probably have a lot of access to pumpkin puree. So take that in mind. Number two, let's talk about the sugar in this recipe. I'm not a sugar lover. I'm very mindful about my sugar intake. So the amount that I've used to bake in this recipe is quite minimal. But this recipe will allow you to push it all the way to 3/4 cup. It won't affect the bake, and of course you'll get a sweeter cake. Number three, I am plant-based, so this is a vegan cake, but you can definitely use 2 eggs in place of the chia eggs that I will be using in this recipe. That's that. Now let's bake this loaf cake. As a plant-based baker, one of the first things I do is make my chia eggs. They need about 10 minutes to come together for the chia and the water to gel together. So that's done, that's put aside, and then I can focus on the baking. As I said, I do like to bake with everything in front of me. I don't like the back and the forth. So before I start mixing up my cake, everything is taken out. We start with a baked butternut squash. That is the squash that I'm using for my recipe. Can I just admit that this is the first time I'm also making this cake? So let's wait for the end of the video to see if I made a hot mess or I made something good. I don't peel my butternut squashes or any pumpkin before I bake them, but I did decide to take out the big chunks of the skin. I did leave a few bits because I am a rustic baker. I like when my baking is not perfect. It just has that extra home feel. Oh, it warms the heart. In goes the nut butter. In this case, I'm using cashew butter, followed by the sugar. Don't forget, I will have the recipe linked down below in the description box with variations as I had mentioned. In goes the chia egg. Followed by the flour and the baking soda and the baking powder. I always add a pinch of salt to my baking. It just seems to elevate the flavors even a little bit more. Immediately I started whisking, I knew my batter was far too dry. The recipe that I used to create this recipe is based on bananas, and bananas have more moisture than pumpkin. So I felt that I needed to add just a touch of water, and I did. I added about 3/4 cup of water, and it seemed to do the trick all right. Your batter should look something like this. As I said, depending on the pumpkin that you use, whether you use pumpkin puree or pumpkin that you have baked by yourself, just keep this in mind. This recipe calls for 4 teaspoons of spice, so I've gone in with 2 teaspoons of my freshly made mixed spices, and I added a teaspoon of ginger and cinnamon, and for even more texture I stirred in some chopped dried fig. My baking sheet might look a little bit strange, but it's because they are reusable ones. You just wash them every time you use them. I absolutely love them, but they're kind of made like of a silicone material, so they're quite flexible and bendable. I love them. Before I pop this baby into the oven, I am sprinkling some oats on top for a gorgeous rustic effect. Just wait and see it. And off she goes to the oven. Oh, look at her. She's gorgeous, isn't she? Oh, gorgeous. Do you see what the oats do? They really give the loaf such a beautiful rustic effect. I kind of overdid the oats, don't mind me. Immediately I sliced into her. I knew I had done well. I mean, look at her. She's ready. Ready for her magazine cover. I had already envisioned how I was going to enjoy this cake with a fresh pot of coffee, and here I am. Coffee has been brewed. Ijeoma is ready for the taste test. But first, a nice good sip. Nothing like fresh black coffee. Oh, who's team black coffee? Let me know down in the comments. It was time to taste the loaf, and I was very happy with myself. I hope you try these recipes. Thank you so much for being here. Talk to me down in the comments. My name is Ijeoma, and I'll see you soon.